Batman The Long Halloween was a bit disappointing, but before I get into my review of this movie, consider this your spoiler warning, because I will be talking spoilerish-ish, if you will, about this movie. So this movie is way too long. It's almost 2 hours and 50 minutes, 40 minutes around there. An hour and 25 minutes per part. It's broken down into two parts, and it just feels so dragged out. I think they could have done this in an hour and maybe an hour and 45 minutes. I know that it was a special project and a story that they wanted to tell, but it was just too long. Now, I know that Batman movies, for the most part, when they're standalone, they are slow to develop because they focus, or not that they focus, but they have to acknowledge the detective part of him. And I enjoyed that part of it in one of them, and well, not in one of them, but in this movie, he is not comfortable with his detective skills, and he says, oh, the Batman's gonna have to turn into a detective, which I don't know if I'm good at. And they did a good job in humanizing Batman. So but it just felt so slow, so very, very slow. So it has a lot of the those traits about how he became the Batman, origin story all involved in it. It definitely has an origin story, even with Harvey Dent, the Joker and everyone, Poison Ivy. The Rosetta Stone of villains are in this thing, which was nice to see. And I enjoyed the animation for the most part. I thought Joker with his stupid hair was a little bit of annoying, even though I did enjoy the actor that was playing that voiced the Joker. I think he had it spot on. And honestly, the voice acting, or the voice casting, I should say, was very good. I believed everyone in their roles. They matched what I saw on screen, so that was great. The voice acting depends on what character you're looking at. There were some really bad ones, but for the most part, the voice acting was okay. It felt like they were working off of each other, as opposed to most animations when one person does it in their, mansion, and the other one does it in a studio, and someone else does it somewhere else, and they don't get to play off of each other. It felt like maybe this was done. I don't know if that's true or not, but it felt like they were more or less playing off of each other, which is always a good thing. The animation, I enjoyed it. It was unique. It was different from what we see out there. It felt more hand drawn than anything else, which I'm always up for that. Even though I don't know if it was all hand drawn, but it felt like it was, and it had just a different style of animation and art technique, and I appreciate that. So it was enjoyable in that aspect. But again, it was just kind of boring. I get that this was a story kind of dealing with holidays, and the villain is, hey, surprise, surprise, holiday. And I guess the police department names him that. Spoiler alert, but names her that, as we found out towards the end, because the killer kills only on holidays, right? And it starts on Halloween, and I think it ultimately ends on Halloween as the story is told, even though New Year's, Christmas, St. Patrick's Day. I'm surprised they didn't throw like Cinco de Mayo there just for the Mexican audience, but they didn't. So it was an okay story, but again, spoiler alert, having it be Harvey's girl that was Holiday was very dumb, because we see Holiday throughout or doing these killings, and it doesn't have the same build. And just because she's burning the trench coat or her whatever she was cover her disguise, towards the end, it was so unsatisfying. And I was like, oh, come on, really? The killer, when we're looking at it, definitely is telling you that it's a male, but then, oh, here comes a twist, and oh, look, it's his girl. Oh my god. And I guess, but just the way it was animated for that purpose was, let's just say, to say the least, disappointing. But The good part about this is the ending. If you're a DC fan or a Batman fan, you know, and I'm always screaming, I want Batman and Catwoman to end up together. Now, in some comic book runs, to be fair, they do end up being together. In others, they don't. In animation, they almost never do. They always start off their love affair. They get, it becomes something, and then it ultimately dies because their morals are too far apart. Well, in this movie, surprise, surprise, when the trick-or-treaters are coming down and Batman's there in his robe, guess who comes down the stairs? Yes, our good old Catwoman. And I was like, finally, a animation movie that ends with Batman and Catwoman being together. The love affair that we all want them to, we all basically want them to be together. We got that in this movie, so I appreciate that aspect of it. All in all, I give this movie a C+ because it has its flaws. Even in some animation, the transitions are very sloppy. You could see where there were computerized movements that they didn't flow naturally. They kind of just moved the image along to make it bigger as they drug it along. Again, I already talked about the voice acting. Some was a miss. For the most part, it was good, but it was a miss, and it was just too dragged on. Now, I know there was a lot of characters, but again, some of these characters didn't even have to do. Why the Penguin was in this in such a small role? Again, I could nitpick this to death. There were just several of the villains that were just drawn in here just to drawn on here, and then had such a minuscule, like 5 minutes worth of TV time or airtime, if you will, that I was like, what was the point? What was the point of even having them there? So for me, a C+. But anyways, those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Did you enjoy this movie? Let me know. And like always, that's a wrap.